Trials versus temptations. And beloved, this is a very important topic that we need to understand, because we are going to be subjected to trials and temptations until Jesus comes. So therefore, this is going to be a daily part of our living experience every single year or moment of our life. So a trial is a general design of a series of temptations calculated to strengthen your faith in God. God is the one that governs the implementation of trials in your life, and the devil is the one who is responsible for carrying out those temptations. So within the trial, the temptations are well placed at appropriate times and in the correct measure to strengthen your resolve to be obedient to God. Within the trial, you are prepped before the temptation happens, that when it happens, it does not, or it was not given the permission to overtake you and quench your relationship with God. If you are overtaken, if your relationship is quenched with God, it's not as a result of God, but it's as a result of your choice. So the trial is calculated to form a habit of victory and overcoming the things that are attractive to you and that you may have a propensity for, but they may not be for your own good. When you look at the experience of Job, God governed the trial that Job was about to experience, and the devil was responsible for the temptations that came to Job. But God set the boundaries of that trial in Job's experience, and he sets the boundaries of the trial and the temptations in your experience as well. But the person who carries forward that experiment is the devil. God does not tempt you, but he allows you to be tempted, to be tested within the trial, that it would reveal what is within you, that you may know where you are, and that the world may know that it may be revealed, especially to the heavenly watchers, who you are and how you have used the precious resources of grace and power that God has before imparted to you. So trials seek to provoke a response from the higher powers of your brain and empower and establish those powers. So the response of Job, because he had before established those high powers of good and trust and faith in God, those powers were now established and revealed. Temptations, however, they appeal to our feelings, our emotional state, and the lower animal nature in man. Things like hunger and sex and passion and anger and pride. So trials are objective. Temptations are subjective. Trials are measured. They have boundaries. Temptations, they are very calculated to bring out very specific things in your nature that are negative, that you may not have consciously recognized that they are there before, or that they are there at such a deep level. So trials are scientifically calculated by God to institute a series of events to bring about change in your character for the better, to take you from one stage to the other and to mold you into his divine image and to fit you for heaven. Trials test your faith. Temptations test your flesh, and they provoke indulgence in the things of the flesh. Temptations can weaken your faith, but trials strengthen your faith. So the trial is to strengthen your faith in God all at the same time, the devil is using the temptation to weaken your faith in God. When you are in tune with God and the temptation comes to weaken your faith, God uses the very temptation to strengthen your faith. So within the temptation, you have a choice to make whether or not you're going to allow this temptation to strengthen you, or you're going to allow this temptation to weaken you. Within the temptation, it requires a large degree of honesty that when the temptation comes, you make a choice and you're transparent with God and say, Lord, you know what? I want to yield to this temptation, but if I yield, I recognize that this temptation will break our relationship. Lord, grant me the grace, the power, and the strength that I need right now in this moment not to yield to this temptation, because if I yield, our relationship is going to take a step back, and I can't afford, neither do I want to take a step back in our relationship. And this is why in 1 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 13 it says, "There have no temptation taken you but such as is common to man, but God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it." So whatever the temptation is, right there with that temptation, there is a way of escape, and the way of escape begins with your power to make a choice, with your decision making power, beloved. And so you must understand that right there where you are as a temptation comes to weaken your faith and to pull at your flesh, you have the opportunity, you have the power to make a choice, to ask God for grace to give you divine power to overcome your temptation. So temptations can seek to quiet the conscience, but trials, they offer resistance training to the temptation, beloved. Beloved, take care to understand what a temptation is, to understand the objectivity of the trials that are allowed to come your way, that are calculated by God, designed by God to develop within you His divine nature. We are going to study this concept in depth over the next few days so that it would strengthen our resolve and strengthen our understanding in serving God and maintaining faith in Him. This is the Word of Life with Andre Knight.